So, this is where we are. So, do our final little checks. We have our autopilot configured the way we need to. We're holding short. We're going to go ahead and kick on the taxi light, or the landing lights. Taxi lights will come off. Strobe lights are going to come on. We are checking. Okay, make sure our autopilot is set, navigation is set to GPS instead of nav. We're going to zoom out ever so slightly since we're going to be looking at the larger route now. Transponder is 2200. And the Beechcraft Bonanza takes off with no flaps unless necessary, which we don't believe will be necessary. So we're going to remove our parking brake and taxi onto the runway. This is the point we would be making our calls or waiting for clearance from ATC, depending on whether ATC was online. Alright, we'll start lining up on the runway. Go ahead and come to a stop. Alright, this is our final check. Controls are free and clear. Mixture full rich, prop full RPM, and release the brakes and start accelerating. Here we go. Use rudders to keep it on the center line. I'm better at that on some days than I am on others. Airspeed is alive. Go ahead and rotate. Positive rate of climb. Gear up. We're going to go ahead and set heading mode. And autopilot is engaged. We are climbing. Climbing at roughly runway heading. Let's go ahead and see if we can. Yeah, we drifted off the runway. It's a little not good, but we are parallel with the runway. That's something I need to work on. And here we are, out over the water. Accelerate our climb ever so slightly, bump it up a couple notches, be about 1,200 foot climb. That's much better. Alright. This is the point we are supposed to. Turn right heading 013. That is approximately where we are. And normally this is where we would hold this track until we receive further instructions from ATC. But ATC is not online, we are flying offline. So we're going to vector ourselves using Navigraph. Navigraph and the other tools at our disposal. We'll go ahead and start that centered on us. We are inside the Bravo, but at this point we are simulating and assuming that we are under control of air traffic. Let's go ahead and manage our engine while we're in the climb. Cut the RPM back to 2,500. And we'll go ahead and lean the engine. Looking at our engine lean here, I'm going to tap that. I'm going to lean for rich. Start pulling back until you see the center column start flashing. That's the leanest position. Stop at that point and start pushing back. And watch the horsepower. Once the horsepower peaks, then we will have our rich of lean peak. Oh, there it goes. Which of course we're still in the climb, so this will be constantly changing, but this ought to be about 260. So we are leaned for the climb at least. Our autopilot just told us that we're approaching our cruising altitude of 6,000 feet. We've broken through the bottom cloud layer and got some beautiful clouds around us. That's very nice. Our airspeed is starting to climb. 120. Manifold pressure is still currently maxed out. Once we get into cruise, we will set manifold pressure and, if need be, relean our engine. Alright, autopilot starting to level us out. Looks good. Alright, do believe we're leveled out. It is time to vector ourselves onto our approach. So we're going to turn northward, 360 to start. And our first waypoint lies directly over there. So we'll go ahead, keep following to 270. Get turned on 270. We are going to imagine that ATC, once we're established on heading 270, elected, they decided, okay, we'll proceed direct Maverick. So select Maverick, direct Maverick. Let's go ahead and activate our nav mode and activate Maverick. All right, proceeding direct Maverick. Alright, we are now on our course and can get back to our engine. Let's go ahead. We're at 2,500 RPMs. I'm going to go ahead and re-richen the engine. I'm going to pull the manifold pressure back to 25 inches. So we're at 2,500 RPMs, 25 inches manifold pressure. And let's lean for rich of peak. I do believe, there we go, lean for rich of peak. Sure. Alright, lean for Richard Peak. Start leaning. Start leaning. Alright, leanest. Stop there. Stop. Start adding back. 200. 8, 9, 10, 11. Alright, it peaked around 212. So we'll pull it back. 213, 214. That's pretty good. We'll call it that. 214. You just hit that. and it goes back into engine monitoring. So we are set. We are leaned. We are at 2,500 RPMs, 25 inches of manifold pressure, and we are leaned, rich, and peak. So that configuration is, cruise configuration is 25-25 rich. And here we are. Not a lot to do, but manage everything, make sure everything stays good. We can go ahead and turn our weather radar on now. We're off the ground. Don't have to worry about cooking any virtual ground crew. Alright, we're in. The weather radar seems to be clear. Pleasant clouds all the way. And if you look, our airspeed is just indicated airspeed is just a little below 160 knots, which 160 is what we expected. We're probably running about 155, which is not terrible. We're doing all right. Ground speed indicated at 168 knots. According to this, we are 49 minutes and 40 something seconds away from our destination. So we are good to go. All right. Alright, I think we just passed over some sort of beacon on the ground, nav beacon for Dallas Fort Worth, because that little indicator, I think, was some sort of a marker on the ground. It's my understanding. Let's get out tracking us. And here we go. Let's go ahead and put in a little bit more on the manifold pressure. Get ourselves up. It's about 28. That'll inch that airspeed up to 160 indicated like we were planning for. Just to shave a little bit of cruise time, that's all. Yeah, there we go. We're at 28. So we're 28-25 rich is our cruise configuration. Cabin temperature is 73 degrees. Very nice. Alright, Navigraph's just in the way right now, so we'll go ahead and cut that out. Alright, now that we don't have a whole lot to do, let's see if we can get some nice screenshots. I just remembered something I forgot to do. Our landing light is still on, so we'll go ahead and landing light comes off. Simple as that. Now we're good. These beautiful clouds around us. So line ourselves up for a decent screenshot. One from each side, because why not? Alright, one thing I can do while we're doing this is I can go ahead and start filling out a little bit of information on my mission log. This is a cool little mission log I put together to keep track of on-air missions. Like, for example, we now know our cruise profile is 2825, which weather observations was overcast at 900 feet when we took off, or actually I believe that had changed when we checked it. So let's reread that. Yes, it was overcast at 1,000 feet, not 900, but still IFR conditions. So overcast at 1,000 feet. We don't know our engine runtime yet because we're still in flight. We don't know our flight time. Mission payout, we know what we can expect, but I always like to do that after the fact. It's easier to chase the numbers down. Distance flown, we're currently flying. You know, all this other information we have to wait. Starting fuel, we do know that, or at least we should know that. Starting fuel in gallons. That's actually a number I should have written down, but I can find it because it was 84 point something. I will look that up later. And ending fuel, we're not sure yet. Alright, so that's about what we can do there. We will minimize this, get it out of our way. All set. This is one of the everything goes smoothly. This is the point where things get a little dull. It's nice to have people to chat with, talk to along the way, which is one of the reasons I'm hoping to grow my channel and gain experience as a streamer as I go. Once I do, then I'll be able to chat, talk with chat while in cruise. The more labor-intensive parts of the flight, pre-flight, taxi, takeoff, climb out, well, all those things, they demand a little bit more attention. And of course, the arrival and the approach and the landing and taxiing to parking and all that does require more of your attention. It's a little harder to converse with chat. But, if I can build my streaming habits, gain some skills as a streamer, and possibly start to grow a community, then I'll have people to talk to while I'm in these less interesting phases of flight. Check in real quick, make sure to just check our engine instruments, give us something to do. And we are at about 28 inches manifold pressure, roughly 2,500 RPMs. Fuel flow, what is that, about 17 gallons per hour. Our temperatures are in the green, and oil pressure is in the green. Everything looks to be good. Our engine monitor over here is cycling through various information. We're getting about 242 horsepower out of the engine in our current lean setting. It's pretty good. I have been considering upgrading to the full, I guess you would call it, professional version of the paid version of the PMS 50 GTN 750, just so it'll have full features. It can follow airways, can do things like that. I've been considering it, but it is a big investment. I want to be sure I'm going to use it before I invest the money in it. There's one little thing. That is something that I like to do with my, whether it's an aircraft or an add-on or a subscription. I always want to be sure that I'm going to make use of that service or subscription or product before I go to the trouble to spend the money on it. For example, Navigraph. I use it every single flight. It is paid. It's a subscription-based model, but I use it every single flight, so I don't mind getting it. On Air is another example. It is subscription-based, but I use it with TPC Charters, and we have, I have a lot of fun with it. It gives my flights purpose. And it's one of the reasons I love flying charters so much. But I just looked at my coffee cup. My coffee cup is empty, which is unfortunate. I have at least another cup to cup and a half of coffee in my coffee pot, so I will be right back. You guys don't go away. If anyone joins while I'm gone, I will return. I'm going to go refill my coffee, and I will be right back. All right, I am back. I've got my coffee in hand and ready to continue. All right. Shows we're about 35 minutes from our destination, which means things should start getting interesting again before too terribly long. About 3 minutes from Millsap. One thing we can do while we're waiting is go back to gameplay. Here we are. Back with the sim. Engine check again. 28 inches manifold, 2,500 RPMs. Still about 17. Which reminds me, fuel flow. Let's check our fuel. This is an interesting thing that Bonanza has. Those tanks have to be manually switched. They do not flow evenly. We have left tank is what we have selected. If you look, we are a little below 3/4 of a tank, about halfway down 3/4 of a tank, and our other one is still full. Well, that creates an imbalance, and that will cause problems on approach if we aren't careful. So let's go ahead, switch our fuel selector to the right tank. We'll start burning fuel out of that right tank. By the time we get where we're going, we'll be a lot closer to even. And we have plenty of fuel left. We don't have to worry about the tip tanks. Although one of these days I want to use the tip tanks just to say that I have, so I understand how they work. my understanding is that these tip tanks, you have to manually turn on the transfer pumps for each one. I don't know if it's advisable to run them at the same time so that they run evenly, or if it's better to run one and then run the other and turn them off once they reach the same point. I'll have to look into that, but at any rate, we don't need them currently because we're still have more than enough fuel in our normal tanks. So I'm thinking some of the longer legs once I get a little closer on the Coast to Coast initiative, which reminds me I should go over that. We'll give it something to do while we're in cruise as well. So our Coast to Coast TPC Charters Coast to Coast initiative is, give me a moment, I'll get my route brought up. Oh, you guys didn't want to see that, I'm so sorry. On air, Coast to Coast. Here's my route plan. Okay. The Pilot Club TPC Charters is a Coast to Coast initiative. Basically, pilots are rewarded with TPC points for navigating from our TPC Charters headquarters in Montgomery, Montgomery Air Park in Maryland to John Wayne Airport in California. And pilots have to fly a route between Charters FBOs along the way. Well, Dallas Love and Abeline are two of our Charters FBO locations. So that is what we are currently doing. Let me see. KGAI. I'm currently working on the westbound flight. There we are. I have my route planned out. And we'll switch. Ready to show. To help gauge your activity and your participation. Plus, you know, it's just fun. I decided when I started my Coast to Coast initiative, I decided I was going to fly the Beechcraft Bonanza. I had considered the Beechcraft Baron, but I wanted to focus on the Bonanza first to learn all the intricacies of the complex engine management system. The simulation that Black Square has put in is very rich. It's a well simulated engine. It also has turbocharge simulation. Although I've stayed below 10,000 feet on all these legs so far, will eventually get into higher elevations the further west I go, and at that point, I believe the turbocharged engine will really show what it is worth. That is my hope, but I will need to learn how to manage it so that it performs the way it is supposed to, which is what we're doing with the leaning and the checking my cruise profiles and everything. For the return trip, once I make it to John Wayne, eventually I will turn around and come back eastbound. And oh, look below us. What do we have here? A little break in the clouds. You can see some ground. Yeah. Anyway, eventually I will turn around and come back eastbound. But I'm thinking very seriously about trading the Bonanza for the Baron at that point, or if not the Baron, possibly the King Air. Remember when I told you I was a shameless Beechcraft fanboy? Hi, Serge. I see you there. Glad you could join me. This is unfortunately the long cruise of the flight. About 28 minutes, give or take, almost a little less than 30 minutes estimated to arrival. King Air for the win, yes. Yeah, I'm leaning towards the King Air, but I want to give the Baron some love too, because I got the Black Square Baron, and so yeah. Black Square anything is fire. The Black Square Bonanza, I briefly considered grabbing the Black Square Caravan because I love the fidelity that Black Square adds to the base aircraft by completely changing the avionics. But also your beloved Kodiak is another thing I've looked at. But I'm holding out hope that the Aerosoft will re-release the Twin Otter at some point. So, I don't know. I got my options. But for now, I'm happy with my Beechcraft. Though I will eventually work on the ATR some more and get that going and see if I can get that get a short regional route set up for TPC charters between some some of our smaller executive airports. Load up as many executive jobs as I can and hop in the ATR and go. Yeah, so many good aircraft in the sim, and I'm curious about how how MSFS 2024 is going to play out. I'm hoping a lot of the aircraft we have now end up being forward compatible and end up being converted to 2024 without the need to repurchase them. But there are a handful of them that even if they weren't, yeah, everybody's wondering. I know, I'm not alone in that. Yeah, then I'm hoping that they're correct, because there's some of them that, like, third-party devs and stuff, everybody has to figure out how to do it. You're right, we will see. Testing, testing. Oh, there we go. I apparently have issues with this microphone. It might be time to start looking for another microphone because it cut out on me earlier in the stream and I caught it and had to fix it. Thanks for the heads up. Yeah, thanks, Serge. I appreciate the heads up. Would have took me a lot longer to find that if I didn't have you in chat with me. All right, 24 minutes. Coming up 24 minutes. Check where we're at. Show you my planned route again. Bring up Navigraph and go from here. Because earlier in the stream I went ahead and covered the route, but I might have been having mic problems at the time. I'll show it for you who have joined. So we're flying from Dallas Love to Abeline Regional, and we're going to be making use of the 3.5 right ILS with the Abeline transition. It's interesting, and I'm hoping that the PMS 50 GTN 750 that I'm using, the free version, can handle all these course reversals without too much trouble, because it looks like it will fly cross Abeline and turn, and then fly reverse course on the ILS back to the initial fix, make the loop, and come back in the right way around. I'm hoping it should work properly, but because I'm not 100% sure, that is the reason I am not on VATSIM. This is an offline flight, because there's a lot of things. Yeah, course reversal, that's what I'm hoping, and I don't know if it's going to fly appropriately or if I'm going to have to switch to heading control and figure it out myself. And since there's an unknown variable at play, I decided to do this flight offline. No VATSIM, no ATC. Once I'm more competent with it, then I'll have this tool in my tool chest for VATSIM if ATC gives it to me. But yeah, as I was planning this out, I looked at the different approaches, and my options were to try to fly the course reversal with the Abeline transition, or I could come in. Let me switch from the sectional chart to low IFR. There we go. There's the waypoint down here, if I can find it, Medley. I could fly from the Victor 66 direct to Medley and then come in at the 45 on Tommy, which would have been the safer choice as far as that goes, but I wanted to challenge myself. So course reversal. Right, exactly. That's a tool I want to put in my chest so I have it when it comes up again once I'm back on the network. The other thing yeah, exactly. And the other thing I had to get creative for on my route was the fact that the free version of the PMS 50 does not allow you to follow airways. So I had to find my entry point at Millsap, get on the Victor 66, and then find my exit point at Abeline. In order to follow the Victor 66, I had to manually plot them out. Although I am considering upgrading to the paid version of the PMS 50, which is supposed to be able to handle airways with no problem. Yeah, like something I was saying earlier, and I'm not sure if you were there for it or not. Anytime I invest in anything for the flight sim, whether it's an aircraft or avionics or a subscription or anything like that, I always make sure I'm going to use it before I spend the money on it. But I'm leaning pretty heavily towards getting the paid 750. Of course, I gotta renew my Navigraph and my on-air subscription before too long, so. Let's get back to sectionals. Alright, it's about 16 minutes until we reach Abeline VOR. So we're getting a little ready. Let's go ahead and check our engines again. We're set 28 inches of manifold pressure and roughly 2,500 RPMs. We're still getting 17 gallons per hour on the fuel flow. Engine temperatures are green, oil temperature is green, oil pressure is green. We're still good. We are set 2825 rich of peak. Cloud surfing, yeah. I got a nice screenshot earlier. I'll have to be sure to post it on the Discord. But take our external camera, skimming right along the tops of the clouds. We're cruising at 6,000 feet. I was afraid 4,000 wouldn't be enough to clear the clouds, and I was absolutely right. So yeah, this is really nice. And this is an IFR flight because conditions, let me show you. Switch back. There we go. Sorry. Like I said, we're passing over some farmland right now. You see breaks in the clouds. Go ahead and bring up the checklists. Get our yolks back in there. Checklists in the sim are not bad, especially for the black square aircraft, because I will admit I haven't been using checklists a whole lot in the past, but in the past I've also forgotten very important things. So that was something I mentioned early when I first started the stream, was I'm wanting to try to build the habit of using checklists, at least a good chunk of them. Like, as you can see, I've already gone through before engine start, cold start, the after start checklist. I didn't do the run up, and I didn't do before takeoff stuff. I'm still abbreviating things where I can, because I'm not running with failures set in the black square. I'm trying to learn how things go properly before I start troubleshooting emergent, engine problems and whatnot. But let me just show you an example. Like the before engine checklist, you just click, and I really do like it because you tick the item here, and it'll advance to the next one. And let's say for a moment, like this item here, oxygen pressure should be between 1550 and 1850 psi. You click the I, and it takes you directly to that instrument and highlights it, so you can help find it. It's a really good way to learn about the aircraft. That's my opinion. So I'm enjoying it, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure Black Square had to set all this up. This isn't something that comes with the default G36. So yet another reason that I like the Black Square aircraft. Yeah, a very nice feature, and so I'm just slowly adding the checklist to my repertoire. Before you know it, I'll be using checklists all day long. A different aircraft, the ATR, actually has checklists built into the MFD, which is neat. They put click spots on the MFD where of course it's a SOBO, not Black Square, but they put click spots on the MFD that you can advance through the checklist and tick off items just by clicking the screen, instead of having to bind a key or figure out what control in the cockpit does it. You can just look directly at the MFD and advance through your checklist and go from there. So it's a habit I'm trying to build in the Bonanza while the checklists are simple, so that when I transition over to the ATR or the fly-by-wire 320 or whatever, then I have that habit and can follow checklists more consistently. Are you talking about on this flight in the Bonanza, or are you talking about you on this flight? Honestly, let me bring up Navigraph. I'll show you what I've found. On the ILS, zoom in here, we're using the Abeline transition. I'm only at 6,000 feet. Once we cross the Abeline VOR, the chart indicates that you're good down to 4,000 feet. And if you look here, approaching Tommy, our final approach, our intercept point on the ILS, you're coming in at an altitude of 4,000 feet, and you intercept Tommy at 3,600. So my plan is, once I cross Abeline, start descending from 6,000 down to 4,000 feet. And then once I fly the inversion, the course reversal, and get established back on the localizer, then I will descend from 4,000 down to 3,600 to intercept the glide at Tommy. That is my game plan. Whether it's procedurally correct, I don't know, but I'm confident that it will work. Speaking of, we are 6 minutes away from Abeline, so it's time to start thinking about these sorts of things. Let's see. Ooh, windmills. Look at that. Wind farm down there. Lined up along the road. Love seeing stuff like that in the sim. I've got the We Love VFR package. Oh, we're right in the middle of a wind farm too. Thankfully, we're high enough we don't have to worry about them. But look at all that. Windmills everywhere. Get a screenshot real quick. Pretty cool. Haha, the clouds cleared up ahead of us. Do one more. There we go. It mutes. It mutes when I go to browser. Okay, I think I have to set my mic up. I'm sorry. All right, so I refreshed the browser and the METARs. It went to full VFR, no clouds, altimeter 3032. So go ahead, adjust the altimeter. 3032. But yeah, I'm gonna have. I appreciate the feedback on that because I do believe I need to add an audio source to the browser tab. So I will deal with that after the stream ends, and hopefully the next time I do this, it will be a lot cleaner and a lot better. Thank you. All right, 3 minutes and 40 seconds to Abeline. Let's go ahead and get altitude set, but won't start descending until we cross Abeline. 4,000 feet will be our new target. Let's go ahead and double check. Always something on live streams. You're absolutely right. Streaming seems to be a constant learning process. And just like flight simming, for that matter, you're always learning something. Whether you learn it the easy way or the hard way. Pumped about my landing. Yeah, me too. Hopefully you don't get to laugh at me for messing stuff up. But if you do, it's all part of the fun, right? All part of the learning experience. Just checking frequency. Alright, the ILS frequency is 110.3. Let's make sure our nav radio 110.3 is on standby. We'll go ahead and switch, make that to active. Alright. Just for good measure, we'll put it in the standby as well in case something funky happens and they switch places unexpectedly. Insurance, got them both. 110.3 is our ILS frequency localizer. And alright, 2 minutes before we hit Abeline. Appreciate it, Serge. I'm thinking very seriously about setting up an overlay that includes an indicator light so that I switch on the seatbelt sign, so to speak, which means I'm in an intensive section of the flight, which means I won't be engaging directly with chat. Alright, starting the turn. Go ahead. Yeah, that way if the seatbelt sign is on, then you'll know I'm concentrating. And I need to start concentrating now, so consider the seatbelt sign on. My apologies. Alright, we'll start. We're getting turned. We'll go ahead and start gradually descending. Cut back the throttle so we don't build up too much airspeed. Since we are beginning our descent, we'll go ahead and go full rich. Keep the airspeed around 160 knots. Don't want to build up too much, but don't want to slow down too much yet because we're nowhere near our final approach. Speaking of approach, let's go ahead and bring up our final approach course is going to be 355. So I will go ahead and set course indicator to 355. That way it'll help us know when we're lined up correctly. Stay on GPS until we are in the course reversal. And once we intercept the localizer, we'll be good to go. Need to go ahead and step up our descent. Bump it down a little bit more so we make it the rest of the way. We're 2 minutes and 45 seconds from Tommy. We make sure that it's gonna have us do what we're supposed to do. Looks like it will. Yeah, looks like it's... Oh, I didn't mean to click the transponder. Let's just go ahead and... There we go. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna have us fly the course reversal. Zoom out a little bit so I can keep track on everything. Good to go. Alright. Cut the manifold pressure back just a little bit more because we picked up airspeed. We're about 165 indicated. We're trying to stay around 160. That was the cruise speed on our assumed flight plan that we would have filed if we'd been on VATSIM was 160. So. Alright, a minute 19. We are 4 miles from our waypoint, so it's all coming together. I'm gonna get the yoke out of the way. I'm gonna have to hit some switches here in a bit. Go ahead and get the landing lights on in preparation so I don't forget them. Now we're getting back in the clouds as expected. Real quick. Really quick screenshot just for kicks. Alright, here we go. Alright, starting turn. It is turning on to the reverse course, which is exactly what we wanted. There's the outer marker, but we're flying over the outer marker in reverse, so. All right. Airspeed's about 140. We'll go ahead and push the manifold pressure up just a little bit so we don't lose any more speed. Alright, we're in nav mode. Alright, it's about a minute. Minute 34. Go ahead and get this set up. See if I can get a cheeky little screenshot on final approach. There we go, set up. So all I have to do is hit 2 buttons and I'll have my screenshot. Zoom in a little bit more. Alright, 30 seconds until it should start the course reversal. This is the point I'm not sure about because I'm using the free version of the 750. And it is starting the course reversal. Very nice. Fly ourselves a little box. It's not a perfect loop, but it is a connected shape in the sky. That's interesting. I think my Navigraph sim connect or whatever it is a little bit off, because if you look at the 750, and if you look at Navigraph, it looks like they're just a little bit out of position, but it's going to do what it's supposed to do. It just it's not tracking perfectly on the Navigraph map. Alright, turning on the next leg. Exactly, sir. Just close enough. No pressure. Most of the time when I mess up a landing, it's on the ground. Like I'll run off the runway after taxi or something like that, you know, while trying to decelerate. So we'll see how my ground handling is today. All right, we are on a intercept course with the localizer, so we will go ahead and switch our navigation mode to localizer, and it is moving to intercept the localizer. Actually, it's moving a lot more than I expected. There it goes. Now it's like one now. Move down to 3,600. Start that descent. Gradual. Go ahead and arm the approach. Have it ready to go. I just heard a door open, so that means my wife is awake. I will give her a heads up when she comes in the room that we are recording and we are live, so she's aware. Once established on the localizer, I will go ahead and start configuration for landing, gear, flaps, that whole 9 yards. Start decelerating. Good morning. Just give you a heads up. I'm recording and I'm streaming, so just be aware. I still say I need a little on the air light. Almost done though. Alright, the localizer's coming, just drifting a little closer, a little closer. In retrospect, I probably should have went ahead and left it in GPS mode until I was already on course and then armed the localizer, because this is very gradual, but lessons learned. We are at 3,600. I see, probably hard to see on the stream, but out here on the horizon I can see the lights for the runway blinking, so we're on the right track. Let's go ahead and move the heading bug onto course just in case it is needed. We'll veer us off at a weird angle. There we go. There we go. I see we're drifting ever so slightly onto the localizer, so I believe we are established on the localizer. 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Until we reach, looks like Tommy. Just a little bit more power. Keep us moving forward smoothly. We'll go ahead. All right, go ahead and drop gear. We're below 150, so gear down. Once the gear is set. Alright. Below 140. Go ahead. Flaps to the first notch. Should be approaching the glide. Should be catching the glide pretty soon. Just confirm we're in navigation mode. Glide slope and approach are armed. We are on course on the localizer, and we have visual with the runway. So worst case scenario, for some reason the glide does not capture, we can do a visual approach. But there's the marker. And we are on the glide. Here we go. For some reason, our waypoint here is listed as user defined. So it's not going to give us an estimate to the runway, but using our approach plate, we know we're at Tommy, which is about 5 miles from the runway. So we're on 5 mile final for runway 35 right. Once we reach the next waypoint, I will go flaps to the second notch and get on approach speed. Right now we're at 120, ground speed's 107, which is just about right. Everything looks good. Descending smoothly, 3,000 feet. Alright, we'll go ahead and flaps to the second notch. Roll a radar indicator down here. Radar altitude shows 500. Knots indicated. It's a good approach speed. Everything looks good. Radar 400. There's 300. Alright, we're on track. Go ahead and disengage the autopilot. Fly by hand. Give it a little more power. It's just sinking a little bit too much. Back too much. Ooh, power. Go ahead and flare. Alright, we're over the keys. Engine's back to idle. Nose up. Let's float her down. So it's going to be a little bit of a floaty landing, but it's okay.
Landing time on.
Little rough, but we made it. Let's keep it on the middle. Alright, we're down to 20 knots. We'll exit to the left. What is this? Delta 2. And brake. Temporarily set the parking brake. Let's get the aircraft cleaned up. Flaps are up. Landing lights come off. Taxi lights can come on, although it's daylight. We don't really need them. Let's just go ahead and take those back off. Strobe lights come off. Let's go ahead and zoom in so we can see the airport. Looks good. Alright, let's change our Navigraph page to the airport layout since we are now safely on the ground and not moving. Move in. Alright, we were at Delta 2, so we're going to go ahead and plan our taxi. Trying to get to, honestly, the FBO's on the other side. Looks like we can taxi via Delta November. Yeah, we'll plan for Delta November Charlie to get to the FBO. So everything looks good so far. We'll go ahead and increase throttle back up to our taxi level, about 1,000 RPM, about 1,000 RPM. Good. Lean a little bit, keep the engine from being too rich and fouling out. Lean for taxi, and all set. This is the point I would make my calls if I was on VATSIM, but I'm not. So we're gonna go ahead and turn right onto Delta. Yeah, I was sweating on the dive too, man. I really was. But I worked it out, and I compensated, and managed to make it land. In the real world, it might have been a go-around situation, but it worked out pretty well in the sim. With the winds being what they were, I was a little concerned I would get too much of a crosswind and have to crab into it. I haven't got the knack of crabbing into the wind just yet, but I'm working on it. Little at a time. Whoop, I bumped the throttle. Let's get that back where it belongs. 1,000 RPM. There we go. Let's keep the brakes. Let's keep it below 25 knots ground speed. That's a fast taxi, but 21, 20, that works out. It's comfortable. Yeah, look at that windsock. Can you see the windsock over there? I don't know if you can make it out. It was almost straight out. Jeez. I don't know if that's a glitch with the sim or if the winds are... it's wiggling, so it's not frozen. Yeah. I think we had some pretty rough winds. No wonder my ground speed, my indicated was 100, but my ground speed was 84 on that approach. So no wonder I was flying into a pretty stiff wind. All right, we're coming up on taxiway Mike. We're looking for November. Should be the second left. Take us right by the terminal. Alpha Mike. And there we go. Keep it on the middle. Slow down a little bit so I make this turn without drifting. Here's November. Go ahead and give it a little bit of braking for differential braking. Make a tighter turn. There we go. We're on taxiway November. We'll be looking for taxiway Charlie, which will get past the terminal. Is it just me, or those jetways aren't attached to a building? Interesting. Just kind of floating. Magic jetways. Oh, stay on the line. Stay on the line. Alright, 24 knots ground, taxi will slow down back to 20. That works. Yeah, smaller airports. Yeah, jetways without the terminal, exactly. Alright, let's turn on to Charlie. Alright, the FBO starts here, but I think I'm going to take the second entry. No, this ramp. There it is right there. There's the sign for the ramp. We'll go ahead and take this one. Why not? Onto the ramp. Start slowing down. And we'll just make ourselves a parking spot. I don't know where the proper parking is, but we are close enough. We are on the ramp. Line up. That looks like a line. Let's not cross that line. Alright, here we go. Set the parking brake. Nav lights can come off. Beacon light should... There we go. Nav light can come off. Beacon light stays on until the engine is shut down. I set the transponder code to 2200 because if I'm not mistaken, I remember reading somewhere that 2200 is the default IFR code. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but just like 1200 is default VFR, I thought 2200 was the default IFR. Of course, if it was an on the network flight, I would have been given, it's 2000. I thought it was 2200. I'll have to look it up. But if I was on the network, they give me my own transponder squawk code. But anyway, I appreciate that. I'm going to look that up, and if it is I'll start using 2000 in the future if I can find where that's at. All right, so engines are good. We're idle. RPM. All right, let's get our prop RPM. All right, I do believe everything is set. We'll just go ahead and lean back to cutoff.
Engine off, time off.
And engine off time. Go ahead.
The flight is finished.
Turn the magnetos off. All the levers back to idle. Everything looks good. Alright, so avionics will come off. And batteries will come off. And we're back to cold and dark. Oh, just for good measure, let's make one more screenshot at our destination. Where's the tower? I cannot see the tower from here, but that is okay. We're here. Wait for the little kicker to go away. There we go. And welcome to